I'd like to give floor to our last speaker for today. We talk about slut-shaming, about macho culture and stereotypes, gender stereotypes that influence children online.
My pronunciation wasn't horrible. From Child Focus, the floor is yours, Nel.
Thank you very much. Your pronunciation was perfect in a very Polish way. Hi, good afternoon, everyone far away in Warsaw. I'm realizing I'm the only one standing between you and the end of this first conference day, which I hope has been very fruitful to all of you. So I'll try to be as concise and as brief as possible, but please bear with me. So today's presentation, I would like to zoom in a little bit further on the phenomenon of sexting. It is a phenomenon we have been working very hard on for the past few years here in Belgium. But today we want to look into a bit further the way gender roles play an important part in this phenomenon. So my name is Nel Broothaerts. I'm the Chief Prevention and Development Officer at Child Focus. Child Focus is the Belgian Foundation for Missing and Sexually Exploited Children. And as for the past 12 years, we also are being the Belgian Safer Internet Center on this topic. So being a safer internet center, we do, as all of our colleagues in the remaining countries of Europe, we also have an e-safety helpline on which everyone can contact us for guidance and support when it comes to stuff that goes wrong online linked to children and young people. And in this chart, you can see that if we zoom into the very specific area of more sexual-related issues online, that sexting is one of the main concerns that are being or that is being raised to us by parents, teachers, but also by children and young people themselves. So that's the reason why we have been working quite a lot on this topic from our prevention and awareness raising side. We have been doing this for the past, I believe, 5 to 6 years even. And basically, I'm going to talk to you about sexting a bit more today. Sexting, as has been also said by Professor Finkelhor, or Dr. Finkelhor, is a very, very difficult topic to deal with and to talk about because it is linked to so many different things and so many different issues that it cannot be just isolated as one phenomenon as such, but it has to be integrated in a very broader story and a broader awareness-raising message. First of all, something really important for me, and that we always want to stress when we talk about sexting, is the fact that many adults, parents, but also teachers are contacting us, telling us we don't understand what they are doing and why they are doing this. Why the hell would you be sharing an intimate picture of yourself with someone else? Basically, if we all close our eyes and we think back, for some of us only a few years, for others a bit more, that basically nothing has changed. If we look back into history, the first sexting message is the one you see on the right-handed side. It's the first history we know of sexting that has gone wrong. It's really in the time of the telegraph. So someone just by telegraph send out a bit of a spicy message to a loved one a bit further away in the country, but instead of being handed out to the person for whom it was meant for, it was shared with other people. That's basically what's happening with sexting. The same has happened during Renaissance and other time periods when very rich and wealthy men, as you see on the left-hand side, they made or they had painters making images of their wives, for instance, or their lovers, and the one on the left-hand side is one that was in the living room of a very important Dutch sailorman who had this version just for when someone came to visit, and when he was completely alone, he could roll it up, and there was another version, a bit more spicy, with a bit more breasts visible, just for his own eyes to see. But sometimes something went wrong, and he forgot to close down the initial painting with the more the less revealing one, and something went wrong. So basically, just to say that sexting is something that has been around for a long time, but that now has made really its way to the sexual lives of our teenagers and young people. As I said, for the past 6 years, we have been working on sexting, and I must admit that we really shifted paradigm and really shifted our story throughout those past years. We also started, as many still do, by telling people or young people not to share intimate pictures of themselves with others. This seems to be the best way to prevent the fact that these pictures get spread out or get in the hands of people for whom they were not intended. But then after a while, we started thinking a bit further, and there was more research, and there were more focus groups with teenagers and young people. And then we realized that basically sexting today has become part of the relationships young people have amongst each other, has become part of the sexual experiences they do encounter. And as Dr. Finkelhor also already mentioned before, young people do not live in an offline versus online world. They live in a connected world with online aspects and offline aspects. So also sharing intimacy has got an online aspect and an offline aspect for young people today, which has not been the case in the past for some of us. So basically, young people sharing an intimate image of themselves with someone else who they trust is not a problem as such. It's just being intimate with someone in some way or another. At which time does it become problematic? If, first of all, you do not consent or you do not feel like sharing a message and you are being put under pressure, to which I will come back to later on, that's not okay. But if you did it in a very consentful and meaningful way towards someone else, there's no problem. It just becomes problematic if that other person starts spreading it and sharing it with other types of people for whom it was not meant to be. So we really shifted paradigm from do not share an intimate picture of yourself with others to, if you get this very intimate gift almost of someone else, don't share it with a third party. We often also compare it with if you have your phone or your wallet in the back pocket of your pants. It's not your fault that it gets stolen. It's still the fault of the thief who just took it from your pocket where you put it or you thought you put it safely. So that's a bit of the analogy that we use. That is very important for me to underline that for us, we only talk about problematic sexting once it gets spread and it gets sent to people who do not feel like getting one or for whom it was not intended in the first place. If we look at the numbers in Belgium, then we see that the primary sexting, meaning share these images with yourselves or with some significant other to whom you really want to share it with, it's about 15% of the 15 to 16-year-olds in Belgium who get involved in this type of image sharing, where more than 27% have already received those images. So there something starts to go wrong. And if we really look into the red part of young people who told us, yes, I have received an image from someone else, but then I shared it with a third party, then we're in 12.5% of the young people who did receive in the first place do admit that they have already shared something with someone else for whom the image as such was not intended. So that's an important area on which we try to work for the past few years with girls, with boys, with the Belgian teenage population in general. So we really stress a lot about the fact that it's all about trust, that the receiver is trusting, the sender is trusting the receiver to take good care of this image and to only use it for personal use, and does not send it out to other people being the audience. So that's always has been for the past years and will remain our basic image to do prevention and awareness raising about sexting. But then we also started wondering, especially based on contacts with young people through focus groups, if people say that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, does this also play a role when it comes to sexting? And we very strongly now believe that it does. And if it does involve, does play a role in the whole sexting story, then it's also very important that at that very moment we also are taking into account this aspect in our prevention and our awareness raising. So what have we learned? We have learned, there's a lot of research on this topic. So we have been working with the Belgian University to try and grasp this issue. We also have been working with Professor Jessica Ringrose, who has been working on it. And all the rest of the information comes from our own personal experience talking with young people here in Belgium. So it is not to be surprised that peer pressure and social norms play a huge role when it comes to sexting. If we look at boys, then we see that boys, way more often than girls, feel a type of pressure to almost collect images. So it's not about just wanting your girlfriend to share a picture with you because you just feel like sharing an intimate moment with her. It's basically asking several girls or several consecutive girlfriends, which is also very possible when it comes to young people, and they hold on to the images. So they build up a type of collection, not only for personal use, because if that would remain the case, that's not so bad either, but they also feel more pressure than girls to spread out images. Why? Because they link it themselves to a type of social appreciation and even image building. It says something about them that they were able to get a picture from a girl. That's something that plays very much among boys, which does not play when it comes to girls. But if we look at girls, then they, more than boys, feel more pressured to send out pictures. So as I said in the beginning, sexting for us is very much okay as long as it's consensual and you don't feel pressured to do so. But girls, sometimes very explicitly, but sometimes also very sneaky, softly, feel a type of pressure to send out pictures when they are being asked one. Also here, it's linked to social appreciation and acceptance, because as boys feel flattered when they were able to get a picture from a girl, girls feel flattered because they are being asked to question. It says something about their desirability. And because it says something about their desirability, they will be, when you are young and hormones are running through your body, you are very much more likely to share something with someone just for the purpose of sharing, because it's something about the fact that you're a desirable being, which is very important to young people who are developing their own sexuality and their sexual image. So peer pressure is very important at that level, and is very different for boys on the one hand than for girls on the other hand. We also know that girls are very much more likely to be sent images they did not want, like the famous dick pics. It doesn't happen to boys that much, that they get an image that they don't want, also linked to the fact that they feel kind of flattered once they get an image. They don't experience it as unwanted images, which is the case for girls. If boys send out dick pics to girls without them asking for it, girls feel stressed, they don't like it, they don't understand why. So it's very much a very different thing when it comes to receiving images. Even unwanted images is very different for boys than it is for girls. And then last but not least, also the type of images that are being shared are very different. If a boy, even towards his girlfriend, is sharing an image, it's most likely to be a six-pack. when they send out unwanted images, they more often send dick pics. But to their girlfriends, they often share their body and especially their abdomen and their six packs. Where girls, when they are wanting to share something with their boyfriend, they much more often choose pictures of, for instance, their breasts or their naked body, which, if you know that sometimes these images get spread further, you can already understand that for girls, that's way much more a bigger thing than for a guy. A boy who is very proud of his abdomen and his six-pack won't find it as difficult to know that this image got spread than a girl who has shared an image of her naked breasts, for instance. Those are general things that we have learned, but we also know that sometimes it goes very wrong for boys also, and they don't like the image that has been spread by them or about them, but still we know that the type of image they share amongst each other is way less risky for boys than it is for girls. And then besides the peer pressure, our society has this type of double standards. It does not only involve sexting, it involves sexuality and relationships in general. It's not only the case in Belgium, it's very much something that is in Western society quite of a big thing. A guy having multiple girls is being called tough and a cool guy and a popular guy. A girl who has sex with several boys is called a slut. Also, young people amongst each other have this type of ideas and reasonings. So this double standard is also very much important. It also plays a role in sexting. When a sexting image of a boy gets spread out, he's being a tough guy and a cool guy. But when a sexting image of a girl is being spread out, other girls, as well as other boys, are calling her a slut, because she should not have been sharing this image from the very beginning. That's something they all say when you talk to them, except when they experience it themselves and you ask them, do you sometimes share pictures with your boyfriend and your girlfriends? Then it's something that many of them do, but when it gets spread out, many young people as adults turn to the victim blaming of saying that you're a slut because you have shared this picture with someone else and you don't have to come crying over spoiled milk because the picture got spread out. So this very much is very important issue when it comes to girls, and again, way less as it is for boys. But this slut shaming and this victim blaming is not, or this whole story is not only doing wrong to girls, it's also doing wrong to boys. Boys are being learned stereotype behavior, which, if you take it all the way to the other type of the spectrum, really can be called toxic masculinity. You don't have to be, you're not only a tough guy if you have a lot of pictures of girls. You're not only a tough guy or a cool guy if you can do X, Y, Z. You're not only being a cool guy if you do not have to ask for help and you can handle everything yourself. So it's very much this dual paradigm is doing wrong to boys as well as to girls, because often in the whole sexting story, we look at girls as more often victims, where we look at boys as more often the ones sending out or spreading messages, so making them more the bad guys. But basically, it goes way further than that, and all the analogies and the reasons for all of this lie way deeper in our society and the way we educate boys as well as girls than we should only be thinking of when we are talking about sexting as such. So there I completely join Dr. Finkelborn that sexting is not something you can only deal with in a very isolated manner. You really have to look into how it plays a role in sexuality, but I dare to take it further and we even have to look into how it plays a role in the way we teach, we educate our young boys and our young girls up until the point where they get to be 13, 14, 15, and 16 years old in order to how you should behave as a boy or how you should behave as a girl to be accepted, to be felt desirable. It's very much something that starts when they are super young, and you have to start thinking about that at that very young age, and not wait until they are 15 and 16 years old and then talk about the sharing or the asking for or the collecting of images. So what to do then? Because insight is something, but how do you deal with this a bit further? We think, but also ourselves, we are very much in the very first steps of this reflection and this idea. It's very important to have tailor-made conversation and tailor-made education. So I think that it remains important to have general sexting awareness-raising messages or prevention messages for all teenagers. But besides that, we have to also link it to what's it like to be a boy? What's it like to be a girl? How do you feel as a boy? How do you feel as a girl? What are men? What are women? And how do they behave, the one towards the other? It's something, as I said, that is not only linked to teenagers. It starts very young, when they are very small children. We have to ask them the right questions, and we have to teach them the right stuff in order to be able to build on that once we start thinking about and talking about issues as, for instance, sexting. We also should work on peer pressure, because we really saw and we really see that it plays a very important role when it comes to sexting. Although sexting should be something that is very intimate between two people, we do feel and we do see that young people experience a lot of peer pressure, boys to get the image and girls to send the image. So peer pressure is a very big thing when it comes to sexting. So that's also something that we should work on when it comes to this issue, combined with personal integrity. And it's really about, again, not about the internet, but it's about setting your boundaries. For instance, as a boy, how do you feel about the fact that your friends tell you that it's cool to have a big collection of spicy pictures of girls, while you don't feel like that's a good thing? If you feel like that's something that you should not be doing, how to say no to that type of peer pressure? And when it comes to girls, if you think that you're only desirable, or you feel flattered when someone asks you for a picture of yourself, but you don't feel okay with sharing it with that person, how to say no, how to put your own boundaries, and how to preserve your own personal integrity. It's something that is really for young people, like this balance, peer pressure versus personal boundaries, and how to say no. A very important topic that we also should take into account when we talk about sexting with young people and when we work on this topic with them. Oh, sorry. And then, last but very much not least, is the idea of asking for help. And this is one that is hugely important for boys. We at our helpline, but it goes for all of our colleagues all over the world, everyone sees that there's a lot more questions that are being raised about girls than there are about boys. Like, parents call us and they say us, I have this image of my daughter on her phone. What do I do with it? Who knows, she might share it with someone. That's a question we hardly get from parents from boys, because one way or another, if you find a picture on your boy's phone of his six-pack, you don't think about other stuff. You just think about, yeah, that's my guy. Young boys are very much often not taught how to ask for help if something goes wrong. They've not thought how it is to be a sensitive person who has all these feelings and can share with them. We still, and I know that by now it sounds cliche, but in reality it's still very much true, we teach boys to man up. We teach them not to cry like girls. Those are important things, and it really might seem like a cliche and a bit yeah. But if we look at sexting and how the gender differences play an important role in this topic, then it really starts there at this very, very, very young age. So please, if you work with girls and if you work with boys, please, especially when it comes to boys, teach them how to ask for help, teach them how to be vulnerable, and teach them to tell you if something goes wrong and they feel not okay. because it's only when we start teaching them to ask for help that we can start helping them. If we don't know that there's an issue, we cannot help them. So asking for help and how to help also is very important for girls as well as boys, also when it comes of the prevention of or tackling of sexting. I wanted to stop my presentation with this picture. This is me with my 2 boys. I have 2 little boys. They're still way too young to talk about sexting, but I do try to talk with them about this type of what is it to be a boy, and what if a girl says no, and what do you ask a girl, and what don't you ask a girl, and why do you do that, and stuff like that. So that's my boys. But over the past, since 2 years now, they have an extra plus sister, and I really notice when I look at myself and my daily education of my 3 children that I teach our girl something else than I teach our boy. We do teach them the same stuff, but when it comes to girls, as it comes to boys, we really have to talk about how to set your boundaries, how to say no, how to resist to peer pressure. And it has to be applied in a different way to boys than it has to be applied to girls, because the type of peer pressure is very different. The type of issues they have to deal with is very different. So we really have to balance it out and have the same basic message for all of them, but apply it in a different manner in order to really introduce this type of gender-specific and sometimes even stereotype behavior or pattern that are playing a very important role, also online, also when it comes to sexting. So here are here's my email address. If ever you would like to have more information on this, or you would like to continue the conversation on this, you are very much welcome to contact me. As I said, it's still in a very preliminary phase when it comes to our way of work also, but I still hope that these first insights that we gained for this past year of work were also a bit useful to all of you, and that we can, in one way or another, make sure that we have a very efficient, effective way to talk about sexting with girls as well as with boys. Thank you.
Thank you, Nel. Thank you for your brilliant speech. I have a reflection that it's not easy to be young people now. It's not easy to be normal and to think about ourselves, how we would like to be. I have a technical question, because we talk a lot about sexting. Which way young people use to share their images? They use social media, mobile application, or other ways?
Yes, young people are very creative. And so they share sexting images throughout a lot of different platforms. We see them share quite a lot via WhatsApp. Snapchat also is very popular, not because they really think that the image will be gone in a few seconds. They do realize it can stay out there, but still it's an important medium that they use, so they will also use it to send pictures or images to others. So basically every type of private messaging application is being used. It can be internet DMs, it can be Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Snapchat, and I think every type of communication tool they use to privately communicate with other young people, including their boy and girlfriend, will be the one they will be using to also share these more intimate images of themselves.
Thank you, Nel. Thank you from all of us. I saw on our chat that we were very involved in your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With pleasure.